But once, she'd sat beside him in English class, sneaking looks when the class was discussing Shakespeare. She'd seen him, his big shoulders huddled over his notebook, writing sonnets from memory, one after the other, in beautiful slanting script that made her think of Thomas Jefferson drafting the Declaration of Independence. He had a look on his face that made her believe he was as far as she could be from the small, boxy classroom with the stuttering fluorescent light, the gray linoleum floor, and the one tiny window. "I wonder where you come from," she thought. "I wonder why you ended up in this place." One time, she'd asked him, in a fit of boldness, what the English assignment was. He'd just pointed to the board where it said they were supposed to prepare for an in-class essay on The Tempest, but he looked as though he'd wanted to say something else. She knew he could talk. She'd heard him talk to other people. She prepared to give him an encouraging look, but when she met his eyes, which were the color of canned peas, she was suddenly swept away by an awkwardness so confounding that she cast her gaze to the floor and didn't pick it up again until the end of class. Usually she wasn't like that. She was a reasonably confident person. She knew who she was and where she fit. She'd grown up mostly among girls, but between student government and the ceramic studio and Marnie's two brothers, she had plenty of friends who were boys. None of them made her feel the way Daniel did. And then there was the time at the end of junior year when she was cleaning out her locker. She was aching at the thought of not seeing him for the entire summer. She had parked her dad's rusted white Blazer badly, with two wheels up on the curb a couple of blocks from school. She had left piles of papers and books from her locker and a cardboard box of her pottery on the sidewalk, while she tried to gentle the door open. She saw Daniel out of the corner of her eye at first. He wasn't walking anywhere or carrying anything. He was just standing still with his arms dangling at his sides, gazing at her with that lost expression on his face. His face was sad and a bit remote, as though he was looking inside himself as much as he was looking out at her. She turned and met his eyes, and neither of them jumped away this time. He stood there as if he was trying to remember something. The ordinary part of her wanted to wave or make a comment that seemed clever or memorable, but another part of her just held her breath. It seemed that they really knew each other, not simply that she had thought of him obsessively for a year. It seemed that he was trusting her to just stand there for a moment, as though there were so many important things they could have said to each other that they didn't need to say any of them at all. He looked uncertain and walked away, and she wondered what it meant. Later she tried to explain it to Marnie as evidence of a true connection, but Marnie tossed it away as another non-event. Marnie felt that she was in charge of taming Lucy's expectations and had even adopted a special mantra for the purpose. "If he liked you, you would know it," she said constantly, a phrase Lucy suspected she had read in a book. It wasn't just that Lucy wanted to help him. She wasn't as selfless as that. She was madly attracted to him. She was attracted to all the normal things and then weird things too, like the back of his neck and his thumbs on the edge of his desk and the way his hair stuck out on one side like a little wing over his ear. She caught his smell once, and it made her dizzy. She couldn't fall asleep that night. And the truth was that he offered her something that no other boy in the school could. He didn't know Dana. Dana had always been a handful, as her mother decorously put it, but when they were young, she had been Lucy's hero. She was the smartest, fastest talking person Lucy knew, and she was always brave. Brave and also reckless. When Lucy got in trouble for something, even for something dumb, like tracking mud into the house or spilling ketchup on the floor, Dana would take the blame. She did it even when Lucy begged her not to, because she said she didn't mind blame and Lucy did. Dana became notorious when Lucy was in 5th grade and she was in 9th. Lucy didn't understand what all the whispering among the older kids and grown-ups meant at first, but she knew there was something to be ashamed of. I had your sister, one or another of her teachers would always say significantly. Certain kids wouldn't come to her house anymore or even invite her to theirs, and she understood that her family had done something wrong without really knowing what it was. Only Marnie was her unwavering friend. By 7th grade, Dana was the "Go Ask Alice" of the school. The cautionary tale, and her parents were the ones people endlessly speculated about. Did they drink? Were there drugs in the house? Had the mother worked when the girls were young? The speculation usually ended with somebody saying, "They seem nice enough." Her parents took it all with heads bent so low it was like an invitation for more. Their shame was boundless, and it was easier getting blamed than doing nothing at all. Dana held her head high, but the rest of them walked around with a black eye and an apology. Lucy tried to be loyal sometimes, and other times wished her last name was Johnson, of which there were 14 in the school. She tried to talk to Dana, and when it made no difference, she convinced herself she didn't care. How many times could you give up on someone you loved? "Lucy's a different kind of Broward," she overheard her math teacher say to the guidance counselor when she entered high school, and she felt horrible for how fiercely she clung to it. She thought if she tried hard enough, she could make amends. Dana fell back a few grades for lack of attendance and every other possible crime that wasn't academic. Drugs, violence, giving blowjobs in the boys' bathroom. Lucy once saw the envelope on her father's desk declaring Dana a National Merit Scholarship finalist based on her SAT scores alone. It was strange, the things Dana chose to do. She dropped out for good on the second to last day of school, just a week before she would have graduated. She appeared again on graduation day, and in the midst of pomp and circumstance, she made her dramatic exit. Daniel was possibly the only boy Lucy knew who hadn't seen Dana tearing off her clothes on the school's front lawn, surrounded by medics trying not to get their eyes scratched out as they carted her to the hospital for the last time. Dana overdosed on Thanksgiving that year and went into a coma. She died quietly on Christmas. She was buried on New Year's Eve at a ceremony attended by the family and Marnie, her 2 surviving grandparents, and her crazy aunt from Duluth. The single representative from the school was Mr. Margam, who was the physics teacher and the youngest member of the faculty. Lucy wasn't sure if he came because Dana had aced his class, or maybe given him a blowjob, or both. Among the complicated legacy of Dana, the most tangible thing she left was a 4-foot corn snake named Sawmill, and Lucy got stuck with it. What else could she do? Her mother wasn't going to take care of it. Week after week she thawed the frozen mice and fed them to him with abiding discomfort. She dutifully changed his warming light. She thought maybe Sawmill would die without the animating spirit of Dana in his life, and one time she saw a desiccated inert version of him in a glass box, and for a moment believed, with a mixture of horror and relief, that he had. But it turned out he had only molted. He was lounging in his hollow log, looking fresher than ever. Lucy suddenly remembered the dry, gray skins Dana had thumbtacked to her wall, her only effort toward home decorating. 11th grade was the first year Lucy allowed herself to be something other than Dana's sister, because she was pretty. The boys forgot faster than the girls, but they all came around eventually. Lucy was elected junior class secretary in the late fall. 2 of her clay pieces, a vase and a bowl, were chosen for statewide art show. Every moment of freedom or success was outmatched by a moment of guilt and grief. She hated that she wanted anything from them, but she did. "You know, Lou, I don't have a single friend at that school," she remembered Dana telling her once, as though she was a real surprise.